Hello, everyone. This is our last uh, theological lecture for the class. I've enjoyed having all of you in the class, but the question tonight is, when will it all end? Um, this is in regards to the return of Christ. A few years ago, a lot of people predicted the world would end on December 21st, 2012. Some of those beliefs didn't have anything to do with Christianity. A lot of people believe because that was the end of the Mayan calendar. Um, or There's been several other predictions since that time. But why didn't Jesus return then? Well, it's interesting that Jesus, in several of his gospels, says that no man knows the day nor the hour of Christ's return. But but there are some views that we should look at regarding the return of Christ and what it means for us in our lives as Christians. First of all, when we look at a Christian or a Judeo-Christian view of history, we need to look at it as linear history. In other words, typically Judeo-Christian history has a beginning, the creation story, and a climax, which really is at the point of Jesus at the cross and the resurrection, and it has an ending or a conclusion with the return of Jesus Christ. This view is linear. However, there are other cultures and other religions in the world, like the Mayan culture and the Mayan religions, that look at history cyclically. So that basically on December 21st, 2012, it was the end of one era of the Mayan calendar, but it was also the beginning of another era, another cycle. Um, but but most of us look at history from a linear viewpoint because of the influence of Christianity and Jewish religion as well, and the Bible. But what is the second coming going to look like? There's lots of different artistic portrayals of Jesus riding on a white horse, followed by angels and cherubim. But it is an important part of our belief. It is really almost virtually a universal belief in Christianity that Jesus Christ will return. But that is about all we universally agree on in Christianity about his return. Beyond that, there's a lot of disagreement about exactly how it will happen. But what it means, in essence, is that when Christ comes in his glory and his power, it will be the end of injustice, evil, and suffering in this world. The complete reign of Christ will occur in every aspect of our lives, and the completion of our redemption as Christians will occur. But then, of course, how it occurs exactly, that's where we often disagree. Now, there's several terms here. Some of these you may be familiar with, some you might not be familiar with at all. But that's fine. We're going to introduce them to you today. But first of all, the end of the age will not be defined by popular books like Left Behind or by popular authors like Joel Rosenberg. Those are Tim LaHaye and Joel Rosenberg are two of the most popular Christian authors today that talk about the end of this age. Um, but they don't define necessarily. It's just their interpretation. But the first term that we're going to talk about is the rapture, and it's a popular term. It hasn't always been necessarily a popular term used in Christianity, but really only for the past several hundred years. There's reference made to it, perhaps a description of it given in Scripture in a few in a few verses in the New Testament. But there's wide disagreement about when it will occur. And the rapture occurs to basically it occurs to refers to several scriptures that indicate that at some point in history, those who are left behind, the believers who are left here, will at one point simultaneously all be captured up into heaven at one moment in history. Um, now, there's technically three different views about when this will occur. It will either occur before what is described as the Great Tribulation in the book of Revelation, which is called the pre-tribulation view, or it may occur in the middle of that tribulation, the mid-tribulation rapture view, or it would possibly occur at the end of the Great Tribulation, the post-tribulation view. My view is called the pan-tribulation view. It will all pan out in the end. Anyway, it's one of those subjects that I think as Christians we can agree to disagree. We all agree that Jesus will return, but we don't know all of the specifics. But the other subject that we'll briefly talk about here is what's called the age of the millennium, which is referred to also in the book of Revelation, and when it will occur. Um, um, a lot of Christians view the millennial age as symbolic, but some view it as literal. So those that view it as more literal, one view is that Christ will return and bring a golden age of a millennial reign of Christ. That's a premillennial view. A postmillennial view is the idea that a golden age of Christianity will precede the return of Christ, and an amillennial view is basically a view that the return of Christ will return at some point in history, but the millennial reign of Christ is really something more symbolic or metaphorical, caught up after to describe what life will be like after the return of Christ. But a lot of these ideas were popularized 200 years ago by a Christian theologian named John Darby, who developed this whole idea of theological dispensationalism, trying to identify when Christ would return, how it would happen, but also identifying 7 different ages of history. It was an interesting theory, but it had its challenges, and it's not quite as popular today as it was, say, 30 or 40 years ago. But anyway, it's helpful to at least to remember these terms about the rapture and the millennial age, because they are popular terms thrown around in Christianity today. I think the most important question for you is, what is your opinion regarding the rapture and the millennium, and how do you think you can support your view based on Scripture? Those are good, valid questions. I think they're important ones. Um, but regardless of your various views on the rapture and the millennium, the one universal idea that Scripture and all Christians, all Christian denominations and Christian creeds agree upon is the fact that Jesus Christ will come again. Our prayer right now is that hopefully He'll come before your final exams are due. So, Lord, please come quickly. Again, thank you. I've enjoyed having all of you in this class this year. I hope you have a wonderful and blessed summer for the rest of your summer. God bless all of you.